Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello, all listeners out there. Once again, welcome to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 181st iteration of the show, recorded on the 21st of February, 2016. My name is Josh Trelevin. With me, as always, is
co-host extraordinaire Ryan Kirkby.
My good co-host. The best co-host I've ever had.
Oh.
Say.
I guess that means I'm better than the special co-host we've had. If for no other reason than sheer volume.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the closest we've ever had, well, no, because I was going to say, we've had guests, but
yeah.
they're definitely guests, not co-hosts. So, yeah.
Guest hosts.
No, just guests.
Guest host ghosts. They're ghosts. We have ghosts. But yeah. So, we have a couple pieces of news for this week. Just a little reminders. First up is Roll for Initiative.
Yes, the Roll for Initiative, where we play Dungeons & Dragons mainly at Lifetime Networks in Victoria, British Columbia. So if you are in town, the link will be in the show notes. You can click on Roll for Initiative. It's only $10 to attend if you're a player. And it's like a little game convention that we have almost every month. Trying to get it to grow. It's been not too many people attending, but hopefully this month a little better. So that's
as the weather gets better, you see more people going out and doing those sorts of things. Otherwise, people just forget this. I'm turning on the heat in my room, and I'm not leaving that. I don't even have a full house. I just have one room that's just called the room with the heat in it. So now that that's no longer quite such a big thing, you're going to see people it's like, maybe I'll go out and do stuff, and hey, they're heading on out to Roll for Initiative.
Yeah, and so that's on Saturday in the afternoon.
Very nice.
This coming Saturday. So come on out and join us. I have a scenario ready to go. I don't know if we're going to have enough players, so that's why I say, please come out and be another player, because we need more players. I don't know if we'll have enough to actually fill up all three tables, but because there's 3 Dungeon Masters. That's a wealth of Dungeon Masters right there, though.
That's pretty good, yeah.
And that's kind of... That's good, though, because Dungeon Masters are usually, like, in demand. Like, usually...
Everyone wants to play. Not everyone's got, the wherewithal to build the adventure scenario.
It's true. It's true that. So, yeah.
In addition, though, coming up in March, I think it's 12th, 13th March, will be the Lantasy.
Yep, yeah.
Which is primarily, computer stuff, but that's not everything. They got board games, they got card games, they got, the role-playing stuff, the RPGs.
Yes, yeah, they do. So it's happening at Perks Arena.
Yes. Right in my backyard, effectively.
Basically, it's pretty much taking over where Godicon left off.
Yes, I do believe. I don't think they're going to have the same amount of booths for people selling stuff, but I have been told that there will be something there.
Yeah.
So there's, hey.
So I don't know. I'm a little bit worried now that we did sort of have a false alarm with IFCon. We ourselves hyped it a little bit. And then it turned out to kind of fall through. But, we're ready to give another shot to a different convention.
IFCon was trying for some very big things. And don't get me wrong, it's always nice to try something big.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you know you're going to be able to do something big unless you try something big? This one, for Lantasy, it's trying for something a little bit more down to earth. We got, the computer stuff for those who want to do that big old LAN fest going on. I think they figured out what games are going to be going on when and all that sort of thing, based on popular vote. And then it's going to wind up being like, for those who want to do other stuff that's still very nice and nerdy, well, we've got all these other things. We've got some stuff set up for, I believe there's 5th edition, 3rd edition, some 2nd edition stuff for D&D.
Yeah,
there's New Manara for Monty Cook's game. So there's options aplenty going on, and hopefully it will be fun. And it seems like it'll be a lot easier to pull through on this one and make it all happen. IFCon had big things going on, big dreams. This is very achievable, moderate dreams that still have room to grow as the years go on.
Right, and I guess, the difference, IFCon was not really a gaming convention, it was a fan convention.
Fan and fantasy, authors and stuff.
And with Lantasy, it's like we specifically have sort of gaming events lined up where people get together and play a game. So that's what the events are all about. So it's a little bit different. So yeah, it's a lot similar to Godicon in that sense that Godicon had gaming events going on. So a lot of people.
And then the booths to buy your gaming paraphernalia because you're in the gaming zone. It's like, this would go great if only I had this miniature here. Cha-ching! Now I do.
Yep. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to have time to actually go to Fantasy myself. So I'm talking about it like it's this great thing, but I'm
going to see what I can do myself. That said, I do usually work weekends. Gives me the Monday, Tuesdays free to have with my daughter. And no, I'm not going to trade that around for anything. It's just quite nice that way. That said, it's not like I work all day. And maybe I can skip my Super Sci-Fi Saturday nights once to go, and spend, I think it's $15 just for the one-night ticket for, the Saturday. So I could go there and have a nice little blast, go home, because it's not too far a drive from Perks to my place, and have a good night's rest and still be ready to work on Sunday. Woo!
Okay, so, so maybe Brian will make a cameo appearance there.
I do my best. I'll be incognito, of course. I'll be the guy that looks like everyone else, just with a slightly better haircut.
Yeah, you'll have a clever T-shirt on.
Or a retro one. I think I've got some T-shirts from the beginning of 3rd edition. I might be able to sneak in and just wear and see who notices. But yes, if you're gonna have an excuse to wear a pithy T-shirt with something wonderful written on it, I mean gaming convention's the place to go. So why would I waste that, man? I definitely gotta wear something.
All right.
Mind you, this is gonna take place in the shadow of St. Paddy's Day, so just be careful.
Do you have something big planned for St. Paddy's Day? St.
Patrick's Day? Trying to make sure everyone stays off the road, because if there's one day people are going to be drinking and driving, it's St. Paddy's Day.
Oh, so you are going to make sure?
I'm going to make certain that me and mine stay away from the roads.
Your role in this is you and yours, as in...
My family.
So you make sure that your daughter doesn't do any driving?
No, that we all stay away from the roads and we try and get, nice and settled in for the evening before, it gets too late and the party goers start really reveling.
Okay, and in order to corral them... What are you going to?
I'm not going to do anything to corral them.
Oh, you're going to entice them into your own home, into their home, into staying home.
Yes, I'm gonna find some very good reason for my wife and my daughter and I to all spend a nice evening at home.
Okay.
Probably board games.
As opposed to because they're both big bar people.
Well, no, but we do go out sometimes. It's we'll do some late night shopping. There are a number of food markets that are open till midnight.
Yeah.
And boy, is that a nice boon for a lot of parents, sort of thing. We both work, so we won't get a chance to do any shopping together until something like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And on St. Paddy's Day, that's well into the drinking hours.
Yeah. Now I know it happens. I mean, and I'm sure that there are.
That's the thing, though. It is the one holiday where drinking to excess is much more condoned than any other holiday.
Yeah.
Maybe Thanksgiving. Depending on what sports teams are playing and where you're living in relation to them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's that's the thing is I am just so nicely protective of my family. It's okay, this is going to be a festivity, and you know what? I did get my daughter a nice little green felt Viking hat. I don't know how or why they want to combine leprechauns with Vikings, but I found it nice and adorable and $2 or less, so got one for her. And so we're going to have some fun, of course, but we're not going to be partaking of the everyone, just get sloppy and, revel to excess.
You have a fair amount of Scottish heritage, right?
That's conceivably true. Honestly, most of my heritage for the Kirkby line goes straight back to Ontario, Canada.
Okay, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah. Although I've been told somewhere on my mom's side there's likely some Scottish heritage.
Okay.
Maybe Russian. Don't know. It's kind of vague on the other side of my family.
But that sounds like no Irish.
Might be some Irish. But as they say, on St. Paddy's Day, everybody's Irish.
Okay, yeah.
In which case, that's actually one of the nice inclusive things, because, like on Christmas, it's like, everyone's a Christian on Christmas. It's like, no. Boy, would you get in trouble for trying to say something like that, right? It doesn't matter what faith you are. You're a Christian on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I guess some people aren't.
But everyone's Irish on St. Paddy's Day. And that's kind of boss. I do like that aspect of the holiday.
All right. But it is not St. Patrick's Day yet.
No. But yes, a little warning of upcoming holidays and all that.
Are we going to do a podcast on Leap Day? No, I guess we're going to do one day before. That's next week.
Yes. Yeah. We eschew this Leap Day sort of thing for once every 4 years, and we will put our podcast on the 28th, as God intended. But yes, enough of that. What you been doing this week, Josh?
Oh, yeah, okay, let's talk about that stuff. Simulation, well, not simulations, but actually, I did some sporting stuff.
You did sports stuff? What, like fantasy football?
No, not fantasy football. I did, I guess I took a boxing lesson. I attended a lesson and was told how to sort of begin boxing.
In that case, I will counter and say that boxing itself is indeed very much a fiction-based thing. Not because I think it's fake, like wrestling is, but because it is a system of rules set up to simulate a fight. Therefore, boxing is simulated, St. Paddy's Day roughhouse bar for fighting, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's not an actual fight,
no.
Although they call boxing matches, sometimes they call them the fights. But
I prefer when they call them bouts, because that way it does sound a little bit more technical.
Well, yeah, or a bout or a match or something like that, because it's technically, it's not a fight.
It is two people trying to punch each other in the face, right? An awful lot. And that is a fight by most people's definitions. But it's not like, like taking any real low. If you take a low blow, I mean, you pretty much lose the match, isn't that right?
If you take a low blow?
Well, if you try a low blow, like anything hit, if you literally as well as proverbially, if you try, like doing something, like putting weights in your gloves to have a more hefty swing.
Right, yeah.
That's a cheating sort of thing,
you're disqualified. Yeah.
And I do believe you can be disqualified if you are throwing what is literally a low blow, anything beneath the belt.
Yeah.
That is the modern belt, not like the old 1940s belt, which was up around, say, the belly button or higher. I've been watching a lot of old movies. For some reason, the belt used to be a lot higher up, like just underneath the rib cage sort of thing.
And if your opponent is wearing suspenders, then I guess there is no below the belt, so you can hit them anywhere.
Oh, and that's why you don't see suspenders in boxing.
I think the referee wears suspenders.
Well, that's why you're not supposed to hit the referee then.
Yeah. Unless the suspenders count as like vertical belts.
Yeah, you got to get them in between. You can only hit the center of the body, right?
Yeah.
None of this winging it in the shoulder.
I mean, technically, the word belt just means like a long strip of fabric or leather, I suppose.
Fabric or leather, yes. Because if you wind up using something like an electrical cord, people make fun of you for it not being a belt. Dude, they're ragging on your cord, man.
But if you used a fan belt as a belt...
Well, then either you're really big into puns, you're big into automotives and something's happened to your regular belt, or you're just gone crazy.
Yeah.
So yes, how was your boxing lesson?
Yeah, it was so fun. It was like I have never been into boxing or fighting of any. Like I guess I took a karate lesson years ago. In Prince George, there was just a guy at the YMCA was teaching karate lessons. So I took a couple of lessons with him. I think I ended up skipping a bunch of them. And I signed up for...
Does that mean he tracks you down? He will teach you the lesson one way or another.
No,
you better learn.
I felt bad because it's supposed to teach you things like discipline and stuff, and one of the first things I do is just skip classes. I mean, he was just a guy, I mean,
he wasn't your sensei yet.
Well, technically, I called him sensei during our.
You were forced
class.
To call him sensei. You didn't make that voluntary choice for him to become your sensei.
I did, in the sense that, I chose to pay him or pay through the through the organization. I paid dues for the class. I didn't have to. I went to the class. I didn't have to be there. So yeah, it's in that sense voluntary.
Okay.
And probably like if I had said something like this was just a normal guy, like he wasn't just some super like extreme teacher or anything like that. But if I had said I don't want to call you sensei, he would have been like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But that's not.
Call me by my given name, Sensei.
Yeah, right.
Still got to do it, buddy. Ha
I can't remember his
The
name.
name change
now.
was worth it.
He was a cool guy. But yeah, I don't remember.
So you only took a few lessons.
Yeah, I must have taken 5 or 6, all like just sessions. 5. I mean, I don't know if you count one length of time as a lesson, but yeah. Anyway, so that the only time I've ever taken any kind of like fighting course before was that. But this time, I was, and again, like I'm probably going to do the same thing with these boxing lessons, is maybe show up a couple times and then kind of quietly drop it, because I'm not that into it. However, I will say I really enjoyed sort of getting to sort of think about the whole idea of boxing, and I never even really considered it as like boxing. It's a game, really, is what it is.
It's kind of like, I guess you could say it's just a very physical version of like rock paper scissors, because you can't defend both your head as well as your torso, and you got to figure out which way the guy's going for to counter.
Well, I was thinking it's almost like chess, because you do have quite a few. Like they were just going through sort of some of the basic positions and moves and where you're allowed to, where you can have your hands and what you can do, and it feels a lot like chess, because the moves feel very sort of prescribed. It's like this is what you do for this move, and like this is how you move.
He's going for the French opening, I see.
I don't know if there's a French opening. There might be.
I know there's a French opening in chess, so I made the play.
Right. So it's a little bit like that, in that you sort of, when you look at your opponent, you can almost picture them sort of in a grid, and like, okay, like there they are, they're doing the thing with their left, so you almost picture like different areas where you can go for on them and stuff. Not that you would necessarily picture them in a grid, but that sort of idea, you can sort of codify it, and it's.
Well, I mean, they put the hockey, like net effectively into a grid. That's why you got like the 5-hole, right?
Yep, yeah, hockey's a little bit like that.
So it's not as though it's just really that way, but it's a nice way to break it down to think about it in discrete, like styles, and like here, there. And so for your boxing maneuvers, you've got opening, close, block. Yeah,
exactly. And I like it as a game or a sport too, because it's a game or sport that. Well, people usually don't do barehanded boxing, but in theory, all it requires is 2 participants, and they're like, you don't need any gear or equipment or anything like that. And the other thing that I thought was cool, and this is the way it is when you do sort of sparring or just practice boxing, is that the sort of the goal of the game, at least at where they were showing me what to do. It's not to like punch as hard as you can and like really knock out, because I always had this feeling of boxing, this impression that it was, it's about that knockout. It's about really like slamming them, hurting them. But
you listen to too much Mike Tyson then.
Well, and that's another interesting revelation I had about boxing, is that this talk bravado about I'm going to kill you, going to hurt you.
I'm trying to be professional, but my goal is to get into the ring and make orphans of its children.
Well, yeah, and
I believe that was an actual quote by Mike Tyson, not just me imitating him.
And sort of my impression before had always been that like, that's sort of, and maybe it is bleeds over into reality a little bit, but my impression was like, he's a really evil, violent man, and he just wants to hurt people. But if you look at the sport as sort of the way it's sort of intended, you can see all of that stuff as very sort of theatrical and more along the lines of role-playing, which we do role-playing games, and the fact that you sort of take on this persona. You're describing yourself playing a game that's a lot like chess. And like if you were playing chess with somebody, you could say, I'm going to murder you at this chess game, and like you're going to like blah, 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 blah. And
first, I'm going to take your bishops, and I'll leave you without religion. And that's when I'll come for your knights.
Yeah.
I'll take you apart piece by piece, slowly, until all you're left with is 2 pawns and a king in the corner. You don't even know how both pawns got into the corner, but they'll be there. and you'll wonder, how did it come to this?
Yeah, like that. I think boxing might be the first role-playing game, and that you're not actually
I'm pretty
trying to kill
certain
somebody,
the first role-playing game was related to the oldest profession, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, maybe. But what was I saying?
It's definitely one of the oldest simulations we've ever had.
Yeah, it's a simulation because it's not real.
So how far back do you think the concept of like a purposeful fight, but not for actual the intent to inflict injury goes back?
Probably before even humans, really. Like
back to apes?
Dogs and cats, like kittens, play fighting.
You can also see bears, and most major predatory animals doing that as cubs.
Yeah, but I guess they don't have rules. Like,
I suppose each one does make up some sort of rules. Like, we're doing this in the one field, and you got to do this, and then you wind up doing like a leaping sort of game. Yeah. And they just make it up as they go. But so you can say, like, you can imagine some sort of like Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon thing where, like a bunch of people living in a cave and things are doing pretty good. So, Ugg and Grug wind up going on out into the field outside the cave, and they wind up, like putting their hands up in fists, and they got like leather straps around us. They're just knocking each other back and forth a little bit, having some fun.
Yeah. Well,
because that's a pretty boss thought. Because you don't always imagine stuff like Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon doing stuff like that for fun. It's always, gotta go hunt more bison.
Yeah, well, I like the thought of kids wrestling too, because I think you can see like monkeys doing that too, like chimpanzees and stuff that they wrestle
something
each other
between wrestling and tag.
Yeah, running around. So I like that. I thought that picture like ancient humans running around, and because they had kids.
Well, they would have had to, otherwise they wouldn't have led to us.
Yeah. So the kids would be, play fighting, and I think. So
would they be imitating their parents? It's like, okay, you got to play the mammoth, and everyone else, runs and throws sticks at you. Or is it just, like, okay, then we run around and tackle you.
And yes, somebody would probably invent a game like that, because you have creative, playful, like uncles and grandparents and fathers and.
It's like, I have to get these kids out of my hair. Everyone round up a stick, and the last person to get a stick is the hunted. Everyone else has to be the hunter and throw the sticks at it. Whoever manages to throw their stick and hit the back of the person who's the hunted, you win. Congratulations. Go repeat that on and on and on and on. I got to go somewhere else now.
But do you remember being a kid, though, too, and you would, like, just being with other kids, like, sometimes a game would emerge? Like, and sometimes it's just, we're kicking this rock back and forth. Like, now I kick it to you, now you kick it. And this is kids as young as 3 and 4.
I remember the game of throwing rocks into a pit.
Yeah,
it'd be like a little like area where somebody dug out like a lot of dirt and throw rocks and see where you can get it to hit. How good's your target and accuracy stuff? Like, okay, you see the purple area down there? I'm gonna hit that. Ugh.
Yeah, and sort of a game sort of emerges naturally from the activities that you're copying what another person is doing, or you might be sort of competing with them, or like, now I'm gonna try and get this rock past that tree, but you're gonna like. No, you're not going to get past that tree. I'm going to stop it. And then that's hockey or lacrosse or what.
Well, I'm thinking with my daughter, it's just occasionally like we're going to this spot here, and all of a sudden it's a race. And then we got a race to see who gets to the spot first.
Yep.
That's just very basic. I can see all sorts of primitive man and proto-hominid, playing that sort of game. It's like, okay, we got to go to this tree here. Race each other tree. And then they go start off a race. So long as the energy's good, I can see it happening, yeah.
And then another weird thing that happens is, like, different cultures sort of cement rules around it, and it's like, it becomes quite rigid. It becomes like...
You gotta play it the way I played it back in my day when I was young. This is how we played it. Don't do it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Some sort of crazy sense of, like, if they're doing it something other way than how you did it, it's not the right way.
Yeah. And then, like, some of those rules are there for a reason, because... Like, if you don't, like, a lot of times the rules are put in to make the game either more fair or more of a test of actual ability rather than sort of luck or something like that. And you even see that with modern things like offside rules. It's like
the 7, up to 7 games each team has to play in most sports to see who gets to 4 wins. So it's not you lucked out that one night and that's why you're no. I was like, okay, best 2 out of 3. No, well, best 3 out of 5. No, best just 4 out of 7.
That's right. Multi versions. Forward passing, whether that's allowed or not, or whether you're allowed to use your hands or not. It's like at some point in football, like if the goal was just to get the ball past a certain point, like the optimal strategy would be something like just throw the ball as far as you can, and I threw it over the line, I guess we win.
Yay!
Sort of, and then you don't want that contest to be that or that over that quickly, because then it's just the contest is just who gets the ball first or who gets control enough to be able to throw it past the line first.
So with the concept of soccer, football for the rest of the world, but soccer for us, the reason why they don't have any hands is because the game is so old. It happened before we had thumbs. Hey, no using them newfangled thumbs. You got to stick it to the old-fashioned way.
I don't think that's the case, but something like that.
Hey, we got to play all sides here. They don't have thumbs. You do. To even it out, nobody uses their hands, okay? You and your crazy thumb use.
Yeah. But I like that the aspect of sport is that they pick and choose rules based on sort of how they make the game more entertaining.
For the people playing it as well as the people watching it. I'm pretty certain a lot of games developed over wow, this is really fun to watch. And then, it's like, hey, this makes it even more fun to watch. And then, hey, this makes it even more fun than that. And next thing, you got a highly codified system of sports whereby it's, maybe not as fun to play anymore, but boy, howdy, do the people like to watch it.
Yeah, and I like some of the parts that they sort of strip away, which might be like whether you're allowed to use your hands or stuff.
No tripping the opponent.
Like, once you get past, if you run past your opponents and you get by them or whatever, then you don't make it 500 more yards of running. It's like, no, once you get by them 100 yards or whatever, then okay, that's far enough. That's you don't have to continue playing this game forever, and because then it's just one person sort of doing something and unopposed, or so that's not interesting anymore. And similar. I
don't know. I mean, you don't see a lot of opposition in those marathon races.
Oh yeah. Marathons are, that's a little different.
It's a bit of a stamina, man versus himself. And that still manages to get a good draw of people.
Yeah.
Or if that's too slow for you, there's always NASCAR.
Yeah. Yeah, racing, that is an interesting thing, because racing is getting from, point A to point B.
And there's nobody at the very back, it's like, okay, now I play, the bear, and if I manage to catch, anyone else, because I'm racing faster than they are, they're automatically out. Rah! Yeah. You guys got a 5-second head start. Go.
Yeah.
Would racing be better if it was like that? If it was just a 1,500 or 24-kilometer race?
Well, a game of tag of some kind, or. Yeah.
And you just got one guy bringing up the back. It's like, sorry, you're too slow. Sorry, you're too slow, and it winds up being tag for him, and just running, with you could get knocked out of the race sort of thing.
Well, except maybe no, because the interesting thing about a race is that in theory someone could come from behind at any time, right? So the entire duration of the race, there's always that tension involved. There's always what could happen next? And if you're taking people out, then the game becomes less and less interesting. Well, it's kind of more interesting, I guess, when you get to the front.
How about this? You're not technically taking them out. You're converting them. We combine the marathon with the zombie walks.
Yeah.
One zombie begins, everyone else gets a couple minutes head start, and then the zombie guy goes up, and anyone he manages to tag zombies up as well. And then they start chasing as well. And so as the race progresses, you get more and more zombies and less real people. And only the best who've got to keep ahead of, not just, pacing on themselves before they get to the end, but they got to make certain they're outrunning everyone else who's zombied up.
Huh. I'm pretty sure we played some version of zombie tag, but it wasn't in a race. It was in a field. So yeah. But yeah, you play zombie tag, and instead of transferring who's it's just everybody who gets tagged collectively until there's one last person who's that person.
The lone survivor
wins or whatever. Yeah.
So what do you think of my zombie race then?
The zombie race.
The zombie marathon.
I guess. I mean, the thing about sports too is that they get played the changes that get made are not necessarily like somebody doesn't sit down to design. I'm going to make the most exciting, interesting game I can.
They should.
Maybe.
I mean,
sometimes I think basketball might have been.
You figure like the whole argument about humanity though being like are we like some sort of product of evolution, or are we intelligently designed? And people say, well, like, look how great we are. We must be intelligently designed. And so you look at like things like that were purposefully designed. Like a TV does not happen by accident. And so you can make an argument that the intelligent design produces better results for everything in that sort of case. So it must be that a game that would be designed would wind up being inherently more entertaining or more fun or more whatever the aspect or purpose of it is than a game that just naturally came about because a bunch of people started playing and it kind of just went, it evolved that way.
Well, a little bit of both, because I think because a TV doesn't start out as like what we have now in our TV. It goes over generations, and some companies go out of business, some companies succeed. So there is almost like a, not necessarily evolution per se, but it's a sort of evolutionary process.
There's a survival of the fittest
that goes into
survival of the most awesome TV.
We call intelligent design of TVs, but it's a little bit of just market forces and stuff like that. So it's natural in that sense. But yeah, it's true. Like sort of the initial, and I wanted to bring up basketball as an example because it was made like a guy invented basketball as a game. He's like, I can't remember the name of the guy now, but he's like a Canadian guy. We have a Heritage Moments commercial about
about how the guy was angry because like the fruit buckets, they carved a hole in the bottom to pop the basketball out when they were done. It's like, hey, I'm going to be putting fruit in there later.
Yeah, exactly. So he invented a game, but obviously that game is not the same game that they play in the NBA now. They've added rules. They cut the bottom of the basket out. They make specialized change the height of the basket. Change are you allowed to pass forward?
They changed the height of the baskets, but they didn't make it the rules that the basket height keeps changing, so it's like moving up and down on some sort of like conveyor belt, right?
That they didn't do, unless there was some special American Gladiator episode, maybe.
There was, I think it was a Nike commercial where they were talking about like, oh, Grandpa, Shaq, can you tell us what it was like back in the day? It's like, oh, back then, the baskets weren't like 30 feet up in the air, and then they didn't move on you. And it's got a picture of somebody trying to dunk it, and the whole thing just shifts away from them. And it's like all these amazing things like where they put up like you're going down the court and all of a sudden these walls shoot up out of the ground trying to block your way and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, what happened? It's like then the latest Nike thing,
Yeah.
And so apparently there is at least some other person out there that's thinking the concept of like a moving basket. But maybe that's too challenging. I don't know. Maybe the Nikes didn't live up to the hype.
Well.
Unless they start to sponsor us, hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah, Nike. Buy your Nike shoes.
Yeah.
Made in Bangladesh by sweatshops.
Is it still in Bangladesh there? I thought that was mostly for textiles.
I don't know where Nikes are made now. Who knows? Probably all around. Probably in multiple different countries. Vietnam.
Yeah, they better spread it out, man. Share the wealth.
Taiwan. I don't know if Taiwan still does. Yeah, probably. But yeah, I was going to throw in another wrench into this, in that especially with modern sports, you get this sort of sports history and stats keeping apparatus, and people like to sort of imagine oh well, we can't actually have the sports greats of today go up against the sports greats of yesterday, but in a lot of ways we can say, oh well, they had batting averages of 300 back, or well probably lower back in the day, 200s or whatever, and our batting modern players' batting averages are this. So you need sort of a consistent game over the years. I guess it's impossible to keep it 100% the same, but in order to sort of be able to compare, I don't know how important that is.
I think that's the same issue as continuity is in comic books, though.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, oh my goodness, you really can't compare, the current Batman to the Silver Age Superman, because the Silver Age Superman, all he had to do was, turn himself in circles fast enough and he moved through time. Yeah. Clockwise for forward in time, counterclockwise for backwards. That was actually a thing, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And But yeah, baseball, like they keep records. The guy who hit the most home runs in a season, or the farthest I don't know, the farthest is kept track of, but
But I think that's per field sort of thing, because after a certain point in time, you have a hard time measuring it. In which case, they should really be doing something where they can do like a monitor at how high up it is when it goes over.
That'd be kind of neat, yeah. Height. Nowadays they could stick a GPS chip inside the baseball and just.
Wow, it might be a little bit extra much. What they could wind up just doing is just tracking it where it goes. That shouldn't be too hard to triangulate. Normally.
As well, yeah. With all the cameras they have, anyways, for televised games, they could probably.
And it's not like the ball is not very much a stealth object. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could like sonar the darn thing.
Yeah. And records over the years, records keep on getting broken, and there's sort of this tapering off of like the future records keep getting smaller and beating the old records by smaller and smaller increments.
Although I won't lie, I mean, the sportsmen of today are a lot more focused than the sportsmen of yesterday. Babe Ruth may have been one of the best baseball players of his era, but he was in no shape to work anywhere near like what the players are for today.
Yeah, that's true. Because part of it is
between the smoking, the drinking, and the overeating. I mean, he's just ground out of the race for these days.
Yeah, but nowadays we pay them a lot, and they're able to sort of invest in the latest training technologies and techniques and dietary whatever they have to do.
I think it might also be part of their contracts too. You gotta be careful on some stuff. You're not allowed to do this. You gotta spend so much time maintaining health. Don't do anything risky that might injure your money-making body limbs, depending on whatever sport you're in.
I think all the major leagues have specific rules against things like drug use.
Oh, and
including steroids. But
a few of them have nice morality clauses where anything they say doesn't work with the morality of what the team is trying to convey, and we can drop you.
Yeah, I think so.
We can drop you like a cold potato.
I don't know how many teams still have something like that, but yeah.
Apparently enough of them do that they occasionally have a person who winds up doing something very untoward, but not illegal or, just all that immoral, just kind of like a dick move can still get dropped. Under the morality clause, woo!
Yeah, we have this perception of, cultural perception of our sports players is that they're supposed to be kind of conservative, clean,
I don't see that very often anymore. It's just like a prejudgmental sort of image of what, and you say like, oh boy, you're gonna have like 4 baseball players in your house. Exactly what you're gonna expect. Some sports more than others, depending on the physicality of it. You say there's gonna be 4 boxers in your house, having dinner, tonight. Is that much? Does that put a different thing than 4 basketball players, 4 hockey players?
I mean, well, you never want to do too much prejudging, so maybe they're just 4 people.
But if you're like 4 hockey players, geez, I gotta go get myself a 2 for a beer.
Okay, yeah, the hockey players are coming over.
You got 4 football players come by golly, we're gonna have a lot of mashed potatoes going on for a base. We gotta get some
football
nice
players
meat.
Eat potatoes, got it.
Well, no, and you gotta get your side of meat sort of thing. Get your meat and potatoes sort of thing with a nice side, because they, especially if some of the bigger guys, they have to maintain the protein and whatnot loads going on there.
All right.
Gotta eat hearty. Versus we'll say badminton players. Break out the wine coolers.
Okay, badminton players drink wine.
I have no idea.
Coolers.
I didn't even know what to think on that one there. So it's just like, I don't see them as being as big physical, specimens of physical perfection that the other sports might try and convey.
And what do tennis players eat or drink?
Couscous? I don't know. I assume they eat healthy, but it's not. It's so we gotta have big old slabs of meat sort of thing like you might see in some of the more raw sports sort of thing.
Yeah, aren't they a lot of sports are sponsored by people like McDonald's and stuff?
They're sponsored by it, but you don't see them being forced to eat the sponsor's food very often.
Yeah, forced. Yeah.
Eat it. Eat the Big Mac. And smile, monkey, smile. We're paying you.
I mean, I'm sure I've seen commercials
You've seen that where they order it and they walk around and sit down with it, and then they go, and they unwrap it, and then it cuts.
It cuts before they actually take a bite? Really?
Well, it cuts before they swallow, at least. I don't know if they wind up actually, chewing and swallowing.
I demand to see them swallow in the commercial. Shove a camera right in their throat. I want to see. I want to make sure.
Eat it, monkey. We own you now.
No, but I'm sure, sometimes they do endorsement deals, and sometimes they go as far as actually eating the food and saying, "Oh yeah, yum yum" or whatever. I mean, and not
you ever
just
notice
McDonald's,
the big sponsors are stuff like
restaurant.
McDonald's, when it'd be stuff like the more health food stuff, oh hey, whatnot shakes, and I guess jug of juice and orange Julius isn't too unhealthy. There's got a lot of fruits and veggies in there. If you do it right, you can eat pretty okay. So you'll see them sponsoring out any sports players. Where's Andrew Agassi drinking his ice cream smoothie?
For all I know, maybe some of I really am not that big on sports, so I'm
trust me, I
guessing-
watch enough TV. I think I'd see a commercial based on this sort of thing.
So you're saying that the health food industry,
the people that are more likely to be connected to the players. It's like, I got to eat this well, I got to do this sort of stuff. You don't see them sponsoring them. A little weird.
Gatorade does a lot of sponsoring.
But mind you, Gatorade's not exactly the same as what it used to be, because it is associated very heavily with the football field, because that's where it came from. They never point out, however, that Gatorade is only supposed to be good for you if you're doing a whole lot of sweating, leg level physical activity. If the heaviest activity you've got is taking your tray of food to your table, you probably shouldn't be drinking the Gatorade. Get yourself
probably
a
wouldn't
milk.
hurt you too much.
Well, no, but it's supposed to replenish the vitamins and nutrients in the system that you've exerted out through the process of doing your heavy sports exercise.
Yeah, that's what it's sort of designed for.
So, that'd be like going to the gas station, when you've got 3/4 of a tank of gas to fill her on up. So it's why'd you do it when you're that close, man? It's like, wait till you get low. Drain it out first, man.
I know this about gas is you shouldn't let it go right to the bottom.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, you got me on that part. The analogy breaks down that way. But, if you really don't need to replenish it all that much, wouldn't you be doing better off by getting yourself, a milk, getting those electrolytes replaced and getting, yourself, the vitamin D and the other stuff that takes longer to break down, but you can't do during sports, otherwise you'd wind up, getting curdled milk in your stomach and puking up all over the field? Yeah, by the way, don't drink milk if you're doing a lot of sports at the time. Drink it, in the morning, drink it in the evening, but don't drink it while you're playing the sports.
Really? Does milk upset your stomach if you play? I never heard that.
That's the thing is when you're busy doing the physical activity of sports, almost any sports, it doesn't even necessarily be that physical, but any sports where you're doing a lot of work, your body will not digest the food as quickly. And it works conversely, with that. If you have food in your system, you are not as good as sports.
So
because your body's spending the energy
don't
to digest it.
Eat 30 minutes before you go swimming thing, that whole idea?
The fact that it might give you cramps is really, really over. I got a muscle cramp. But no, you'd have to be in pretty bad strait to begin with for that to even be a factor. But it does relate out to, yes. And they've done some stuff how they did that hundreds of years ago, where they do this exercise as often as you can. Yeah, okay, you did that many times, and okay, now here's a big meal. Now try it. And it's like, you only do 3/4 of the amount before you wind up stopping off, because your body's spending the energy to digest the food. So if you're doing a lot of sports, if you're doing the sports and you're drinking the milk, you're not going to digest the milk properly. And depending on how physical the activity is, you could wind up with your overheated core of the body curdling the milk. It doesn't take a high temperature to curdle milk. Room temperature is good enough for that, and that's colder than your body.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't your body already pretty hot? And also,
But you're able to, if I was to, we were to pause this right now, I'd get you milk or chocolate milk of your choice, and we were to sit down and drink that, we wouldn't have any problem with it digesting before we have a chance for it to curdle. But when you're doing the physical activity, your body's not expending the energy and the resources to do the digestion. It'll just stay in your stomach for a little while, just saying, okay, I'll wait. And if it's just sitting there and you're doing activity and your body temperature is elevated, because physical activity elevates your body, then you're going to wind up potentially curdling the milk in your stomach. And then what happens when you have a bunch of curdled milk in your belly?
Isn't it just fine? Like, that's what I thought. Curdled milk, it's kind of gross to look at and drink, but it's just milk, really.
Well, no, it's not. It's never just milk. There's bacteria in there, and if you're doing it long enough, the curdled milk winds up being like a petri plate for anything in there, and it will make you sick. Your body says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! We're getting traces of bacterial amounts and stuff that we don't think is healthy." Abort. Hits the red button. Out it goes. Not literally and all that, but it's a nice little visual metaphor for exactly how it goes. And yeah, your body will reject foods that are bad. That's why you have such a horrible time when you've got food poisoning.
But
your body basically says everything out, all ports now.
Yeah,
until
but
further notice.
Okay, curdled milk is one thing, but and that can happen like pretty quickly. And I've taken Food Safe, so I know that like if you leave food out for I don't know, it's like an hour or whatever, then yeah, you have a danger of bacterial contamination, and that happens with any food that's sort of left at room temperature. Once you drink it, though, it's
outside of the
body.
Safe temperature zone, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to have too much problem with milk curdling in your stomach. In fact, doesn't milk basically curdle in your stomach anyways?
It's a controlled curdle as it gets
controlled curdle.
Well, a controlled curdle as it gets dissolved. I won't lie. It turns out the origin of cheese is from slaughtering calves and looking at the curdled milk in their stomach and going, I bet you I could eat that. And then one thing leads to another. Yeah,
that's an interesting fact.
Yeah, well, I mean the rennet sort of stuff and all that.
That's where they figure out how cheese is.
Yeah, that's how cheese started. It was just like, you know what? That looks pretty good in that stomach. I'm going to see what I can do with that, and maybe we can make it a little harder. Maybe we can add some spices to it, but that's basically where it started.
Yeah.
So, fact for the day.
Okay.
But no, like, and the amount of bacteria you need before your stomach will say, hey, maybe we should eject this because I don't think it's safe, is a lot lower than, this food is being left out, for 15 minutes, for an hour sort of thing, would indicate. You can vomit on surprisingly little, especially when you're not digesting because you're doing physical activity. And I have seen that. I wish to God I had not seen that, but I've seen it, sports days in high school when everyone's got like the track meet and you got to do like 4 different races.
Okay, that's interesting.
And it has been, people not in the best shape, I will admit. They weren't, like the sports star of their grade.
I have seen people, exert themselves quite a bit, like in a sporting event, like a track meet.
So the kid winds up drinking his chocolate milk, and then he goes doing his, he goes for like it's the long one, so it'd be the 1,500 meter race, I think, and. Yeah, that was way too much for him, and he's doing all 4 races back to back, and for some reason, like I don't know why they even schedule that. You got an entire day to do the races. Make sure there's some sort of way to have the stuff spread out so everyone can enjoy it. But that's a tangent on this one. And so they wind up doing like all 4 races back to back, and the heavy exertion combined with the body temperatures and like the warm day, because they never do that in spring. They always do it like late in the semester when like nobody really wants to be inside anyways. And so the guys got
so in the fall?
No, like the heat of the summer, just before. Summer. Yeah, just towards the end of the year.
Oh yeah. Okay, track meets happen in like.
Oh yeah, beautiful, the best weather you can imagine. So you pick it out towards the summer months, and they wind up sure enough, all it goes right on the field and everything. It was spectacularly horrific. So yeah, like. It's very easy to not properly do that.
I didn't think that bacteria had anything to do with that because there's not really enough time to really, I don't know.
Oh, you have not seen bacteria multiply. And as I said, you don't actually need a really high level. You just need a level that your body thinks is like, this might not do well by the time it hits, like the large intestine. Your body actually has stuff set up on that sort of thing. Otherwise, you would be getting food poisoning a lot more often on that. Like the serious stuff that gets you deep in the gut where you can't evacuate it out immediately one way or the other.
Yeah, my thought was that...
Most of the time your body gets it before it even hits that.
The physical exertion sort of like irritates something in you. Like it's not about the bacteria, it's just about that that you're.
Well, I suppose it could be that way too. I mean, like the body's not an A or B sort of system. It's like, okay, under this condition it works right. Under these all other conditions, like there's other things going on. I, for instance, have a hard time, like dealing with breakfast cereals in the morning. Used to eat them all the time, and now it's just like if I'm not having peanut butter toast in the breakfast, it's like I ain't having anything that's going to do well. I'm going to wind up getting stomach pains. That might just be like the body getting old. But yeah, if things aren't going right, and you're not fully awake, and your body ain't working at its peak, you can have a lot of stuff going wrong. So that's why I'm thinking like why do you have the Gatorade? Like when you could have the milk, because you're not doing the heavy exertion. You can't do the milk when you're doing your football. Do not drink milk and play football at the same time.
Okay, it's probably mostly fine.
Oh yeah. Tell that to the person you vomit, onto when they wind up sacking you, and you've had one too many, like milks, and sitting on the bench.
I don't know. Like I've never heard of that being a. I mean, I know people throw up sometimes when they play sports, but it's not like all the time. It's just
because they don't do stuff like drinking milk. Milk takes a lot more energy to digest than most other drinks would. You can get away like fairly okay drinking, soda pop. Like, you want to drink Coke on the field, go for it. The sugar buzz ain't going to help you out really all that much.
You might burp some or whatever.
Well, actually, you could make an argument that the burp helps you out, sort of thing. The guy gets in your face, sort of thing. When you guys are doing the scrimmage, you belch right on his face and throw him off his game for a second. That's all it takes.
That's kind of gross.
Exactly. It's a psychological thing. Just like, like saying smack before the boxing match. But, you go to any sports game, you're not going to find people drinking milk. The only time I recall a sports team drinking milk and even making a reference to it was in a Batman episode. And that was just an excuse for them to go hit to, the thing to dispense it out. And oh no, out comes tomorrow's test answers because the Joker's trying to, swing bets.
Well,
to be fair, it was a good part on the Joker's thing, but the concept boy, that was some good physical activity. Let's all drink some milk and keep on going. It's like no, that you just hurt my head.
Okay. I mean, I've heard that it's not a good idea to chug milk.
In general principle, yeah.
Yeah, something about it turns to a solid in your stomach. I don't remember, but yeah, people have milk chugging contests, and then they do. They end up throwing up for some reason. That would wind up being the same sort of reason why if you let the milk curdle in your stomach without having it digest, it winds your body says, no, we can't do this. It's the various chemical compounds register as being dangerous in such a high degree. Your body says, no, got to go out now. Yeah. Okay.
I guess you can simulate the curdled milk in your stomach simply by having enough volume of milk in your stomach. That's it. The poor cow had to make the milk. You get the whole thing, squirted out. The poor farmer had to do the whole process. What are you doing drinking the milk to drink enough of it to force yourself to vomit? Oh, unless I suppose you've actually drank something that's literally poisonous, in which case you could induce vomiting, and if what you drank is considered acidic enough to hurt you on the way out, milk would be a nice way to nullify that. But that's a very extenuating circumstance. You
Isn't
really...
milk acidic?
No, milk is very basic, so it would wind up countering out the acidic nature of whatever weird, crazy poison, in this case, you wound up drinking that you need to vomit out, and yet you're afraid might burn your esophagus. Not that I'm advocating anybody, vomiting for any reason, but if you're going to vomit, drink something nice and basic to offset your acidic stomach acid.
How does milk have lactic acid? Oh, is lactic acid? That's a different.
It is a very weak acid. It's the same way as citric acid is an acid.
Yeah, but is there not?
But
is lactic acid something that's related to milk, but not actually in milk? I don't know. Is lactic acid in milk, or is it
lactic
just
acid is
after?
lactase, so the lactose lactase sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It is in there largely through the benefit of the bacteria that naturally inhabit all living matter. And yet milk is considered living matter in this case. Even pasteurized, it gets in there. 99.99% is not 100%, man. It will go, and it will go. That's why your milk goes bad after a set length of time. It's like, it doesn't matter how well it's been pasteurized, and if you haven't broken a seal on it, if you leave it in there too long, it will go bad.
Well, I suppose it does matter how long it's been pasteurized, in that if it hadn't, it would go bad a lot faster.
Oh, yes. It does help offset that, but it will never, forego it completely.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that irradiation of apples. Where every once in a while in like a zombie apocalypse movie, you'll see like, oh no, they're in the food market and everything's starting to rot. Oh, the apples are still good. That's literally a thing. But it will only go so long. Sometimes they'll play it out like, oh yeah, the apples will be good forever. It's no.
So irradiation doesn't do 100% either?
It's connected to something else in existence. So like, if you're on Earth, it's not a vacuum. You'd have to irradiate the apple, then put it in some sort of vacuum tube.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, because bacteria can come from other sources.
Yeah, so long as it's...
Even airborne bacteria. Yeah.
So long as you're, putting that apple related to something else, and everything else in that those sorts of scenes where it's like, oh no, everything else is rotting and, like flies and buzzing and all that. No, God, it smells so bad. Oh, the apples are still good. It's like, yeah, that's actually been a little bit long. You should actually start seeing rot from there, if nothing else than from the flies getting on there. Oh, and a related note, don't actually do something like eat apples while doing sports as well. The natural acids in there will work on it.
Don't eat apples, don't drink milk. Sheesh, just Gatorade.
Gatorade, water, stuff that's very easy to digest, which is why I say you can probably get away with going with pop. Even though, pop's a little acidic itself, it digests very quickly, very easily, very readily. I suppose you could make an argument for what the Mongols did. Milk the horses, then bleed them a little bit, shake the two of those things together, and drink that. And that the chemicals in the blood will help with the digestion process.
Does it? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Not superbly. It's not as good as something that would have been designed just to help break down milk really quickly. Add this to the milk, chug it right away before it goes, quickly, rancidly curdled.
That's interesting that out of all the foods we ever eat, blood is just not on the menu.
Not in today's stuff. There's blood pudding. The nice traditional British dish.
Sausage.
Blood sausage and all that. That said, blood is also a very, very good way to move, toxins and various other stuff through from one host to another.
Yeah, there must be a reason why. Yeah, it'd be a good way to viruses like being.
Which is why you'd have to do something like cook it, such as how you get your bloods, pudding.
Yeah, I guess.
But for some reason, I guess since vampires became kind of like a big thing, the concept of anyone doing anything with blood other than just throwing it away seems kind of vampiric. So
it's weird.
Who knew Bram Stoker would ruin a potentially great source of iron and nutrients?
Because we have butchers and we have the technology. If we wanted to harvest the animal's blood at the same time, and maybe they do for other purposes.
Sanguinate the cow as you slaughter it.
I don't know in the slaughterhouse. I don't know what they actually do with the blood. Does it just go down their drain and just it's sewage?
I'm pretty certain most of it is washed away as basic waste. Yeah.
Yeah, because if they really needed, if there was a demand for for sheep's blood or cow's blood or whatever animal, pig's blood.
Kill the cow and then wind up on popping some sort of air hose for a bicycle pump. In there, just flush it all out the system.
But yeah, it seems like blood is just not. It's probably that it's just there's no nutrition in it.
It's great in iron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But iron's also, we can get that from meat, liver.
Why do you think? Because it's got blood in it. Boom.
Okay.
I blew your mind.
Yeah. So liver is kind of, a lot of people. Some people have a taste for liver, but it's not.
Marrow is considered one of the best parts to eat, especially old lamb. You get the nice cut of lamb, you get the whole bit for the marrow piece. Right on out there. Oh, that's delicious. And that's the source of blood.
Okay. Yeah.
Think about that.
Oh, it's not exactly blood, but it's similar.
It's where blood is made. That's the blood house. It is Blodenheim, the house of blood. I don't know if that actually translates out. I just made that up, but you know.
Yeah, but no, maybe it's just that it just doesn't. It's not that tasty a beverage, I guess. I mean, because
apparently it's not bad if you mix it with milk. I mean, at least horse's milk.
Yeah, but like nobody, there's no company for maybe it's just that nobody thought of it, but there's no company out there making a packaged drink that's refrigerated and pasteurized and like.
What if you were to powder it first, so you can like add it to like a mixture, sort of thing that's like a seasoning?
Like powdered blood?
Yeah. Because that way you could once you get rid of the liquid out of there, you could effectively sterilize it by having it heated up enough.
Well, it's weird. I mean, it sounds gross, which is probably enough.
Most stuff sounds. Listen, before I went to work on Saturday, we did Taekwondo for my daughter, and then we took her back and had a little time between then and having to go to work. My wife took a piece of a chicken, shredded it up, and then sprinkled it, into the unborn, like embryos of the chicken's very children. How messed up is that, man? It's just like chicken flakes in egg.
Yeah, the things we eat already are pretty gross. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know if between the two of us we can figure out exactly why blood hasn't, why there isn't like an industry of beverages, blood-based beverages, because we eat the rest of the animals. Yeah, you just don't eat the blood. And we don't eat bones, but bones are hard.
Oh man, you powder it and you turn that into
Jello.
Well, you turn it into Jello, but you can also powder it to down through heat, and that turns into bone black. And you can use that for wonderful, especially apparently from what I've seen from Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe.
You eat bone black?
No, you don't eat it, but you wind up using it for art purposes. And so inks, very specific and very intellectual property, ratioed, controlled, degrees of how powdered, how finely powdered, and what the mixture is of that to water to make a specific blend and tone of ink.
So we don't eat bones because we need all that bone black to make ink out of it.
The artists need it, so we don't eat it ourselves. Although I have been told you can do some bone china stuff, which works something similar.
Huh, cool. Bone china. What is bone china like powdered bone and then mixed with water and then baked like a...
I won't lie,
pottery?
I'm a little vague on the details, but I do know that they have to work with the porcelain it, where you put the glaze on top, otherwise it's way too porous, and anything you're eating for juices will just soak in and never come out. Kind of like a bathtub without the finish. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the old-timey bathtubs where where they get so worn out that the finish is worn off and they don't have that nice soft glaze. They're very porous and they will soak up all sweat and all dirt and all. Not something you want to take a bath in. Long story short.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, you can do bone china. There's always bone jewelry. I mean, there's always someone out there willing to put it in for a little whatnot necklace to try and sell people, right? Not human bone, but likely animal bones and whatnot stuff.
And I guess there are other parts of animals that sort of people. I mean, actually, I've heard about.
You could,
industry,
eat the skin on most animals, but I mean, leather's a really popular product.
Yeah, but I've actually heard that in the sort of slaughter industry, it is a case that whatever they can use, in various, they ship sort of hairs off to another place and make paintbrushes or whatever. They do end up using most of the animal.
Well, waste not, want not. And the more ways you can turn a profit, and the better off your company is. Yeah. And especially the more different ways it goes out, the more well diversified you are in that way. So that way, if oh no, the price of meat is going low, it's well, that's okay. That's okay. We can still have this company turn a profit because we're selling off the skin to the leather guys. The bone goes off to the gelatin and artists sort of things, and the hair we wind up selling off to paintbrush people or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not oh god, the meat price has gone low, we're broke forever. No, shut it all down. Set it on fire, but don't tell me about it. I need the insurance money.
And I guess occasionally they do bad things like grind up the leftover bits and then put it back into the feed and feed the pigs or other pigs.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's it never seemed right to me. Okay, I do not have a lot of love for chickens. Maybe this was because I was raised on a chicken farm and I've seen just how horrible the little things can be. But I do not believe you should be feeding chickens to chickens.
Yeah.
If nothing else,
something seems wrong about that.
If nothing, well, I mean, the concept of cannibalism, I think, always seems wrong. But if nothing else, you do better by selling one to the other. Like the leftover parts of the cow, you sell to feed to the pigs. Leftover pigs you feed to the chicken you feed over to the cow. And if nothing else, you cycle it around. If for no, I mean, like you could make a good argument about reducing the chances of parasitic vectors that would have a human host and have like a cow host. If it goes from cow to cow to cow to cow to cow, then to human, well then you're just beefing up like the amount of like pathogens that could get in there.
Yeah.
Your parasites and all that could wind up getting in there. But if you feed it to the pig, and the pig is not naturally a host for this sort of thing, well then you stop it then. Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay.
You can make an argument that it will weed out all those wonderful little viruses that get into you.
That is, if you have to feed meat to other meat animals, which is there's an argument against that in that sort of bioavailability of.
I have seen a deer eat a bird because it was possible, so I'm not going to say just because a deer is an herbivore you shouldn't feed meat to it.
Okay.
You just got to make sure it's really available and really easy to digest.
Yeah.
They're not very well suited for digesting meat. I'm pretty certain that deer had gas the next day.
This is something I learned. I don't know if it must have been like general science, but there's this idea of the pyramid of like the predators sort of at the top. There can't be that many because they're supported, and they don't get as much nutrition out of eating sort of meat from like a lot. There's a lot of more. Herbivores.
By and large, it is a 10-to-1 ratio. I guess maybe a little bit more appropriately, maybe more of a 10-pound-to-1 ratio. You need 10 pounds of herbivore to support a carnivore for such a length of time. That said, it's not as though the carnivores are always eating about every part of it. I know the caribou in the spring are predated, at least the young are predated, by stuff like various carnivores who will attack, kill them, but only eat the stomach contents. The pre-cheese again, as we're going, I guess, full circle on this one, because for them they get like the milk that these young are drinking from their parents is so loaded with nutrients. It makes more sense for them to try and find another stomach than to eat the rest of the whole calf.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not as though they're always big on eating every pound, and every possible thing. They don't use every part of their kill. So hooray for humanity! We're actually doing better than a lot of carnivores given proper circumstances.
Actually, I had another biological thought the other day.
Go for it.
Since we're on the topic, might as well.
Ask the biologist.
But sure, I'll ask you about it and I'll see what you think about it. But sort of. The planet Earth has, like, basically organisms that are in some way digestible, just, down to a couple feet beneath our feet in the soil, that, like, sort of if you dug a fair amount of soil, like earthworms mainly, but all kinds of insects and whatever.
A lot of fungus in there.
Yeah, fungus and everything. Basically, like, there is sort of food-like material available pretty much the entire surface of like anywhere you are on Earth.
The variability of that does change heavily. Death Valley, for instance, would be a very poor smorgasbord in that regard.
But wouldn't it have earthworms and stuff in the soil?
Earthworms, probably not, at least not to the same degree we have here.
And I know there's reasons not to actually
seasonally
eat earthworms, but in theory, like, you wash them off so there's no parasites or whatever, and they probably wouldn't give you all the nutrients you need, but there would be calories in.
Which is why some places, I've been told Australia is particularly good for this. What they'll do is they get some of the bigger, longer earthworms and put them in a tank full of nothing but like bread. Bread stuff, and then they wait until the creature's eaten enough so that it's just digesting. That it's got bread all the way through it, so it's effectively like like stuffed with bread. Cook it up, sort of thing, and then slice it up and serve it.
Yeah,
I've been told it's quite tasty. It'd be kind of like having bread stuffed calamari. Is I believe an easy way to describe it.
The sort of like what I'm trying to get at is that we live. Even in places where we don't think of as really teeming with life, maybe not extremes like Death Valley, but for most of the sort of the world,
even most of the hot deserts of the world will have stuff like insects. even though they won't operate. Most of the Sahara shuts down from about 10 to 2 when the sun's at its apex. And thereafter, then you'll start seeing them come out. Not in great amounts. I mean, you're not going to see like a big black mass of ants coming off. 2:30, time for the ants to swarm up to the surface. Yeah. But they do exist. They are there.
So we live in food, is what I'm trying to say. We live
in food
by
potential.
Potential.
We cannot digest most plant matter because we have a really poor system for digesting that.
Yeah.
Which is weird though, because it's a difference between how that the chains are connected up. So the difference between starch and cellulose is an alpha versus beta connection, whether or not it's like side by side or at a bit of an angle to each other.
Mm-hmm.
That is all the difference. It's the configuration of the connection.
Yeah, and then sort of different.
One way, potato. Other way, tree bark.
So even though we live in food, we sort of, and for good reason, we evolved to specialize in, no, I eat this particular thing in the environment. And I'm specialized in finding it and consuming that particular thing.
It works for many species to some degree. However, as a generalist apex mega predator, humanity has been able to really devour a lot of everything.
Yeah.
Which, I always have this subtle thought that, what if we're the only intelligent species that came about, being effectively omnivores, so being a generalist eater, not specialized?
Yeah.
What if we're the only intelligent species out there that ever invented the buffet? Because for every other species, we always eat this. They you choose your 3 kinds of grubs, and they provide all the nutrients we need for our diet. So why would we have anything other than our 3 grub flavors?
Do you happen to know, are we the most diverse in terms of what we are willing to eat?
What we can eat, we are some of the most diverse. My wife has a dish called balut. It is basically a duck egg that is fertilized but then cooked. And I will not eat that. I will kiss my wife the same night she eats it, but I do not want to be in the room when she's eating it, and it will still take me a little while before I'll kiss her. I find the concept is just so against my personal views. I have to let some time to dull it.
Yeah, I suppose there are some animals also animal would eat I'm thinking of dumb animals like crocodiles. Crocodiles will eat a lot that would go in their mouth, but I don't know if they'd be able to digest it.
Against popular, cartoon belief, goats will not eat stuff like tin cans.
Oh, yeah?
Well, some of them might eat it, but they definitely won't digest it. And they will likely die of the junk accumulating in their stomach.
So pigs, hyenas?
Hyenas are pretty good for that, yeah. But yeah, pigs are definitely the big one. There was a species of pig back, a couple eras back in time. Geological eras sort of thing, just after the dinosaurs. It was designed to basically eat whatever it could find, except for stuff like trees. And it was so good that it would even digest teeth. That's one of the few things that pigs will not properly digest is their teeth. So in cases whereby someone's feeding a body to a pig, you can still find the teeth and do dental checks.
Well, this is an interesting thing, too, now that we talk about animals evolving sort of in an environment of scarcity, like maybe an arid.
Which is actually what did in that sort of ancient pig was it was not like a predator at all sorts. It was like almost a detritivore in the sense that it would just wait to find. Oh, hey, there's a corpse. What's the thing? It, apparently, there was some evidence that it was eating scat as well. It was designed to eat pretty much anything it could find for nice soft biological matter. But then scarcity happened. There wasn't enough food to feed it properly, and it wound up dying out because it couldn't hunt for its own food. There was too much competition, and then when there's scarcity, everybody's a bit of a scavenger.
I suppose. Well, I was thinking of this sort of goes against the idea of survival of the fittest in a way, because in the world, kind of in many eras of the world has kind of been abundant as far as having sort of available things that other things can eat.
Look at all this biomass.
Yeah, there's a lot of biomass available. So you can become sort of, you don't need to be, it's those environments of scarcity that sort of really put pressure on a creature to become the fittest possible.
Well, see, that's the thing. Fit takes on different terms depending, on what it works for.
Mm-hmm.
Fit in this case is how well you fit into your surroundings.
Because it fits in place. Yeah.
In which case, if the situation changes, you no longer fit into the ecosystem quite as well as you used to.
Yeah.
You're suddenly having a hard time finding corpses that were suddenly in abundance because there were so many animals everywhere just living and thus hence eventually dying. And thus, when their amounts lower down and everyone's starting to eat corpses, as a factor, you, who are not designed to make a corpse out of a living creature, suddenly have a hard time finding a corpse. And thus, you wind up starving out yourself and becoming a corpse, which is also a little ironic in a grander sense. I couldn't find enough corpses, and so I became one.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that in a way, you could say that about, because finding a corpse, you find a corpse maybe that used to be a living thing that you killed. And now
that's the thing.
Look, I found it.
I made it. And sometimes, like with the case of the Smilodons, the saber-toothed tigers, they become too specialized. In which case, their large teeth, which gave them their name, wound up impeding their ability to move fast enough to kill the prey that started moving faster than they did. And so, guess you're too specialized. And now you're no longer around. You're extinct.
Yeah, I suppose. But, you can also see it as there's this explosion of success in, like, sort of one, population or whatever. And it's like, it's so successful that it becomes really big and big and big and split over multiple regions. And then, little events split those populations apart.
Speciation.
And they become different species. And then sort of one branch of this species that was super successful encounters, a different circumstance, and that branch sort of dies off.
Like the first bunch of hominids that tried to migrate into Europe.
Yeah.
They did not fare well, and they all died off.
Well, but
it wasn't until they came back, instead of going straight up from Africa, then they went Asia and back and around, and that became the European ancestors.
You say they didn't fare well, but
that was a euphemism.
Time,
they all died out.
At some point, but they did well enough to sort of get into Europe and leave remains that we found, right? So they must have been there for some
little ways,
100,000 years or something. Right?
Geologically, not very long, but yeah.
Or maybe not, yeah. But so it would have been this is great, and then sort of okay, we're building.
Why is it so cold all of a sudden?
Yeah, and then you might have a cold winter or whatever, and then, yeah.
Meanwhile, our ancestors were, why is it so cold? We better stop making this pigmentation in our skin. There we go. That keeps my bones straight now.
I know. It's just getting off. Yeah, that was a long. I don't know how series of tangents.
Well, that's the thing is we've always been talking about fitness and how it works.
Well, I think it applies to simulations too, because we like to think about how the world fits together and.
Well, at least to some degree. I mean, you could try making an abstract set of rules. I believe that's how card games effectively come about.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to state fitness on a card game, right? So, how do you work the concept of go fish into as a concept of fitness?
Well, yeah. I mean, people have devised evolution simulators, programs.
Oh yeah, very fun.
And those are fun because it takes off on its own, and they put very few parameters in the program, and they say, oh yeah, we'll just iterate and see what happens. They put a few simple rules in there for the creatures to follow, and then creatures who don't, they die, and then creatures who sort of evolve. No, the programmer doesn't even have to input stuff. It's just you can add parts or pieces and take away parts and pieces.
It is still very basic compared to reality and its multitudes. That said, I think some of the best instances of that are the small robots. I suppose they're called hex bugs now for the commercial stuff, but for a while there's been a long thing about being able to make your own bug. There was a way, with a couple proper extra equipment, you could get a Radio Shack. You could smack open a little pocket calculator and effectively make your own little moving bug. In which case, with just a surprisingly small amount of connections, you can come up with creatures that can adapt. Where it'd be something like the legs actually are just like little wires. And what happens if you turn the bend of the wire that goes bent down, bend it up instead, and it'll like start rechanging itself on that one. Placing like a solar panel on that will make it, like, definitely want to spend more time in the light, otherwise it dies off, right? I guess you could call them like the ancestral, like Roombas. Because, the Roomba, is sent to work in a specific area and then go back to its charging station. Mm-hmm. Whereas this stuff was a lot more primitive in nature. I don't know how true some of these stories are, but I have been told of one that was with a solar panel that wound up circling the perimeter of the light that they put down, and would stop other creatures from creatures, the creature bugs from getting in and taking its light. So it's like limiting resources.
Oh yeah,
which is a little weird. But apparently you don't need a whole lot to make that happen. So the concept of fitness can apply down to creatures even such as like the annelids and flatworms that don't have a brain by our sense. So
sure.
You can work fitness down to a level of where you don't even need a cognizance on any degree, which is a little weird. But it all fits together, I suppose. And the bigger the brain, the better chances you are of doing better. I mean, like we're here to talk about it, right?
Yeah, well, we're not more numerous than, say, beetles, but we can do, if one of us meets one beetle.
If we really wanted to, we could wipe beetles off the face of the planet.
Okay.
We've wiped things off before. We can do it again. We just need to find a good reason to unify.
Yeah. I think, should we keep on?
Well, you can keep on that if you want, yeah.
Keep on this thread. I was just thinking, do you think humans are eventually going to go extinct?
No, because I believe our great general nature will allow us to survive in very much more.
Do you think we'll use technology to stave off extinction?
Technology, perhaps, but I still think unless you do something that will make things uninhabitable for us, we will survive. And if you make things uninhabitable for humanity, you are basically going to wipe out everything. Cockroaches aside, there's very little things that are as tenacious as humanity on a cultural level.
Well, I guess I can see humans living for another 60 million years, because dinosaurs ruled the world for a few
hundreds of millions,
few hundred million, hundreds.
Oh
of
yeah,
millions.
yeah.
And the reason, I believe the main reason dinosaurs died was the whole asteroid thing.
Well, here's the fun thing: is that it was not a dinosaur that ruled that long. No one species of dinosaur lived all three, dinosaur
That's
eras.
a good point, yeah.
I'll call them the dinosaur eras. There was other stuff going on there too.
Okay.
But yeah. The
Jurassic,
big one.
Cretaceous,
Jurassic.
Triassic.
Yeah, Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, in whatever order you want to put them in.
Okay, I don't know the actual order. So.
But yeah, it wasn't one species of dinosaur, and sad to say, they were reptilian. And there's some interesting things about reptiles having very bad specialization for their teeth. For a lot of reptiles, all their teeth are basically the same type of tooth. They do the one task. Yeah. They're basically like our canines, right? Whereas we are generalists. We got the flat molars, we got the canines, we got the incisors, we got the premolars, we got wisdom teeth for some reason.
I think we're a good Ice Age animal. I think because we're good at adapting to conditions like changing.
Which is why I think we're going to have a very good chance of surviving any sort of weird, crazy, harsh conditions that might come down the way.
Well, but what if we end up creating like sort of a utopia or something like that, and basically we remove the idea of scarcity from us.
Ah, wonderful.
And then we end up I don't know if humans. I guess at this point we've sort of stopped the idea of uncontrollable birth rates. But what often happens if a creature succeeds in its environment, it's like, oh, okay, now we can explode in numbers.
Humanity tends to do the other way. The more well off you are financially, the less kids you wind up having.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Weird that way. Don't know why.
But
might have
what
something
about
to do with
that?
Spare time hobbies.
Do you think maybe humans might just sort of decide not to have kids anymore at some point?
I don't know, man. My daughter's pretty awesome. If I didn't have to worry about, like stuff like scarcity, like, oh God, where am I going to make my rent next month? Oh, like, how am I going to afford the food and all that? If it was just all provided, I mean, like, dude, I would have more than one kid, like, right now.
Yeah, but I think we're still
I'd have a Zoe, a Chloe, and a Johnny. They're fun, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
You make an argument that kids are a great hobby. It takes a long time for some real good payoff on it, but it's a long-term game and you can enjoy playing.
Do you think the humans that are around 30 million years from now are going to have the same sort of views and outlooks on
I have
children?
Some very severe questions about what humanity might exist as in that far down the road.
Oh, so you don't... So, well, I was asking earlier, like, if you think we'll be extinct. Or do you think it...
Well, extinct kind of implies we all die off. There's the transhuman motion and movement where you can go from human to transhuman to posthuman, and thus you won't die. And so whatever we are, we can still call ourselves humanity, but what you take in term as humanity might not mesh with that.
Okay.
So whether or not we go extinct or we become something else or we ascend, like however you want to term it, is a very particular problem to work with.
Yeah.
It's, for some people it's semantics. For other people it really does mean a huge world of difference.
Okay. Like, do we consider Neanderthals extinct?
Apparently we had sex with them and now they're us.
Well, we have some of their DNA.
Yes.
But we're not entirely Neanderthal.
But we're not entirely whatever it was before we had sex with Neanderthal.
Right.
But in the end, does it really matter? I mean, like, we are what we are, right?
I like to think about it. I mean, no, it doesn't really matter. But
as I said before, like I'm part of like the fraternity of sentience. I guess it really doesn't matter like what the heck you are, as long as you're thinking. Then congratulations, welcome to the group.
I suppose, yeah.
In which case, my worst encounter is the people out there that just aren't thinking. They're betraying their any sense of camaraderie I may have had with them.
Yeah, but what if we had a society that only really needed, sort of one giant computer to think for everybody?
Well, it doesn't mean you can't think on your own. I mean, like, isn't that like you don't need a role-playing game, but a lot of people have fun playing role-playing games. So, like, just because you don't need to doesn't mean you don't want to.
I suppose, but you seem to have a very negative attitude towards somebody who doesn't think. But what if they didn't need to think? Why are you so mad at them for not thinking? I guess in our society it makes sense because that has consequences. Because if people don't think, then they. I
think it's just such a waste of a thing. I mean, you see a person wandering around and you're they're spending there's a long lineup at a deli, right? Sort of thing, you're at the supermarket and there's people waiting to get their deli meats. And they're waiting, and okay, person's ordering, and there's one person at the counter. They're working as fast as they can, sort of thing. But they're still awake, because there's only one person, and you can only serve one person at a time when you're one guy, right? And so everyone else is waiting their turn, and then comes up to this person, like, I think I want, what do I want now? And then they start searching for what they want, rather than I'm sitting here in a line doing nothing. What do I want? Make sure that when my time comes, I can say I will like 400 ounces of the. I don't know. Pick a meat, Josh.
Kangaroo.
Yes, 400 ounces of sliced kangaroo. No, they don't even bother thinking about that stuff until it becomes time where they need to think. They're not thinking until it becomes like a responsive action. It's just like, you just wasted that time. What was going on there? Were you thinking of anything? Were you doing anything there? The unexamined life is not worth living is one thing, but just to not plan your future. I mean, it's just you're like some sort of crazy like wobbling little automaton. It's do you recall those old little tiny football games? Where it was really just a bunch of little figures on a vibrating board, and they just kind of all move around at random, and it would look sort of like football. And apparently that's why they tried to make it look like it was a football play.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Oh. I won't lie. Okay, I might be dating myself, and it's a bit of an old game. But that's basically what it was. It was just like a little vibrating board, and you had a bunch of colored pieces on there, and they'd move around, and it would look like, it's a football game. Oh, look at them, they're fighting each other. And it would be that's what I see of a person who's not spending their time thinking. If you're not looking in and observing everything around you, you're not going to be able to take control of a situation when something happens. When you're just wandering up, it's like, okay, now I'm waiting around for my time to do this. Oh, now what do I want here? Like, you're just like, oh, I don't know, and like, what's going on? And you're not actively looking at the surroundings about you. Like, can you really be said to be living?
I suppose. I mean, what do you think those people are doing? They're just like sort of.
I have no idea.
Like, humming a song to
I've
themselves?
been watching these people do that sort of stuff for 3 decades. I noticed it when I was 5 years old. It's like, you know, just a 5-year-old kid just looking up at a grown adult, like, what were you doing there? Like, I know what I'm gonna, you know, ask for next. You know, when it was my turn, you know, off at the counter. It was a candy counter, so like a candy shop. So, so it's like, dude, I know exactly what I want. I'm looking at all the options. I got $2, which was a decent amount for candy there. I know, so I got $2. I'm like, okay, like what could I get for $2? What's the most entertainingly fun candy, the most delicious candy I can get for $2? And so, you know, I'm waiting for my turn there, and then, you know, like, there's this adult, like a full-grown human being, you know, like this, like, I'm a 5-year-old, you know, I should, you know, like, you know, be looking up to every adult, right? You know, to some degree, like, all adults are someone I should be looking up to, like, and I look up at this person, and they weren't, like, they're nowhere near as ready as I am for getting what sort of candy. They were just waiting around, like, thinking, I don't know, whatever, if there was a thought in their head, it was not anything like, related to the candy. So it's
but like,
they weren't in wherever their head was, it was not in that candy shop.
I would think, like, as a parent, you sort of occasionally would be able to relate to this, because you do get distracted. You might get thinking about, like, oh, you know, something happened earlier today. I got to think about that argument. That takes brain power.
And I've learned over the years to split that up. I can keep track of what I'm doing on the computer, listen to my daughter's tablet, and you know, keep track of her narrating everything going on. So when that time comes and she makes a reference on her tablet to both me and my wife looks at her like, what was that? Like, this is just some sort of crazy randomness coming out of there. I actually say, no, that's actually something from, you know, she was doing from her tablet there, you know, and so she's trying to tell a joke that the kid told, but it wasn't really funny then, and she's just parroting it back now.
Well, you know what, Ryan? I think you might be special. I think you might have a special capacity that most people don't have.
It's not a special capacity that other people don't have. It's something I've trained myself to have, so that wherever I am, I'm trying to watch as much as I can and take the information in and process it. I won't lie, there have been times I've been even better at this. Like, just before I graduated university, every piece of news was coming in and being weighed and measured based on its source. And I met sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, I heard this, so you just take it the same way like you hear a kid hear a factoid doing like carrots are good for your eyes. Like where's the validity in that, right? You know, how is it good for your eyes? And then like as an adult now, and like I say, okay, like they say that, but I'm not hearing any reference point or how good, you know, like, or like how much you're supposed to have to get any sort of, you know, statistical benefit on that. But there was a time where it'd be like, they say that's good, you know, like, where's the reference source and all that, and, you know, like check out the potential of what I know of the carrot, you know, basic structure and its composition to determine how it would relate to the eyes. Long story short, it doesn't. It was back during World War II. The Allies came up with stuff like radar, and they're like, how do we, like, you know, like, come up with an excuse so that the Nazis would hear, like, how do we know where their planes are? And they'd say, oh, yes, well, you know, like, they'd leaked it out to the Nazis, all our pilots and, you know, all our, you know, like, ground station monitors eat carrots, and carrots are good for the eyes. And that's how we're able to spot the Nazis in the dark. And, no, it's all complete bunk. It was just an excuse to hide radar from public knowledge. Carrots are not great for your eyes. They're not bad for your eyes. I mean, you know, like if you're not getting enough nutrients, you're not going to have healthy eyes. But they're not, you know, like if you're eating healthy, extra carrots are not going to make for better eyes. So, you know, like just because you heard it doesn't mean it's true, right?
That's true.
And so that's the thing. Is like now when I hear a factoid like that, I got to start weighing it. Like, you got to drink 8 glasses of water a day, Josh. You've heard that before, certainly, right?
Yeah.
Well, does that count metabolized water from your food sources? How does that work on body really? Like,
I assume no.
I'm almost like twice the body mass of my wife, sort of thing. Like Yeah, give or
I
take
always,
some
like,
numbers.
when I used
And
to
so,
hear
like,
that.
does she need 8 glasses of water? And if so, like, why do I only need 8 glasses of water? I'm so much more, like biological mass than her. Why do I need the same amount of water a day as her?
Because you use it up in sweating.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Like, how does that relate to physical activity? Like if I'm doing very little, like, hey, tomorrow's my day off. I will take my wife to work, come home, have some breakfast with my daughter, play around a little bit. We will have a nap. Then I will go pick up my wife, and then we'll do some nice family stuff together, in the home until it's time for me to watch a show, and then I'll relax. Like, do I need to drink less water because of that? I mean, like, I'm certainly not going outside and, like, running around. Like, I gotta get, like, 17 chores done today. I gotta be everywhere at once. Like that person needs more water than me. That person's exerting themselves. That person's stressing themselves. They need more water, definitely. So this whole bit of, like, you need 8 cups of water a day, like that has, like no merit. And all it takes is you to hear it and think it and break it down. You gotta digest it like it was good food, man. And that's not something I think anybody starts off with. It's just something like they hear that and then they're working that through as the course of the day.
Well, so to your main point, I think I agree with you that generally people could use with a bit more critical thought and more.
I think I could use more
thought.
Critical thought. Everybody could use it more.
I think we all could.
It's something you can almost never have too much of.
I am not quite willing to go as far as you are and accuse, like, the majority of humans everywhere of not thinking, because I think they're just thinking about different things. I'm
not accusing them of like not thinking, but there are some people that are much more scatterbrained and much less cohesive. They're almost like I've seen them. I've seen some people, no matter where they go, like I wind up encountering them like back in university. Everywhere I went, they were so like they didn't have anything together. Oh my goodness, where's my pen? Oh my goodness, I left my book over there. No matter where they were, they didn't have it together. So like where are they having it all together? Like where are they expending their energies out onto? If it's
probably it probably.
I'm hoping it's somewhere, and they're not just constantly chasing their own tail, so to speak.
I'm not saying it's going anywhere productive, but it's probably going to things like interpersonal relationships, problems at home, stuff that maybe there are no solutions to them, but it weighs on your brain, your job. Not having a job, stuff like that.
Okay, I'll grant that. But doesn't that make it all the more important for you to shore up the rest of your life?
Well, it's not easy for just. I do think, try, absolutely. I want everybody to try and make their own life better, but it's not necessarily easy to okay, I'm just going to get my life together. It's as easy as that. Okay, I'll just do it.
Well, it's like sometimes, okay, this is a particularly bad conundrum. Like, I got no clue what to do back at home. But it's like, I am not at home right now. I am at school. I should be focusing on my scholastic stuff. So that way, when I get done at school and I go home, I'm not trying to deal with what's going on at home and all the stuff I missed at school because I was too busy thinking at home when I was at school.
Yeah, but no, I think one of the interesting things about the human brain is that it sort of works on problems
in parallel.
Yeah,
it's quite beautiful that way.
Time.
Yes.
You could be at work and be thinking about what's happening at home, and I think the brain needs to be doing that. Needs to cover all these bases, and managing exactly what you're thinking of is not even necessarily a conscious choice. It's hard to choose what you're actually thinking of. I think you can learn.
Really,
to do
it. I definitely do that. There'll be times I'll be laying there, to sleep, and I was like, oh, and no, that is a thought of work, and you are not at work, and you are not getting paid to think that work thought. So you stow it, and you think of something else right now, buddy.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it helps me minimize the chances of me falling asleep and dreaming of work, then waking up, and then, it was just a dream, now I've got to go to real work. Because there is nothing worse than dreaming of work, waking up, and then going to work. That is just like...
Well, if you hate your work. Yeah, if you had a job that you loved, then it wouldn't be so
That's
bad.
the thing. It's just a very easy way to blow out the love for your work by having nothing but that.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, when you are starting off work, it is good to have the thoughts in the dreams to help put it through your mind and I should be doing this in this order and this and that order and this and the other order.
That's true. Yeah, if it's something that you're learning how to do, yeah.
And a particularly important job that you used to have once upon a time, it's good to have the occasional thought about that and try and recreate it all in your head. Okay, what was the standard operating procedure for the dispensation of media in a laminar flow hood. And it's like, okay, now here, how was this set up? And you picture all that up, and then you recreate it all in your mind. And that way you keep your skills fresh. So there's something to be said about doing that, even if it's unpaid time, right?
All right. Well, again,
yes,
another...
But yes, the long story short on that one, critical thinking skills is the most blessedly human thing I think there exists. You know, like, you can make, we have opposable thumbs, and that what makes us so great. No, it's a critical thinking skill. And if you're not critically thinking, you're betraying your genetic inheritance.
All right.
You're, and that's the thing, though, is I don't even claim that one to be solely human, thing. Like, I believe there are some very smart animals out there, and one day we will have some very smart machines out there. And so long as they're all critically thinking, they're all part of my fraternity of sentience.
Okay, yeah.
That's how I weigh it. But I believe that has sadly taken us a little over.
Going over. Do you want to go a little bit over and just go over also what you... Because that was started off of a tangent off a tangent off a tangent from my weekend.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, I'll make sure to do the same thing I did this week again next week, and then that way we'll just carry it through.
Okay, so yeah, we'll wrap it up about now?
Yeah, we'll wrap it on up.
Okay.
Long story short, sports are good for you. They're a nice simulation of physical reality, and they may be something that transcends humanity itself. Because you can see animals doing what is effectively, games, and sports themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
Although they don't get paid millions of dollars for it, so who's the real winner?
I wanted to plug our social media real quick. Facebook.com/TheSimulationist. Comment on our Facebook page and like it. YouTube.com/TheSimulationist. You can also comment there or subscribe. In case this ever isn't on iTunes, but it is on iTunes. iTunes, type in The Simulationist in the search. Find us. You probably already listened to us on iTunes. We would love it if you could rate and review.
Sadly, it's podcast. A pure star-based system, not like out of a 13 dwarf-based system.
Yes. But yeah, leave us as many of those as you like. And we're also on Stitcher. You can also rate us on Stitcher, favorite us. We're on Google+. I don't do much with Google+, but we are on there. And subscribe to the blog. TheSimulationist.com is where you get that.
What if they want to send you a message that's 140 characters or less?
Oh, yeah. Go to Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can follow me on Twitter, or you can tweet at me at Josh_Treylaffin. That's Josh_TRESLAFFIN. Because I wanted to make it hard to spell. I don't know why. But just
you wanted to make it unique and memorable.
Yeah, part of my comedy branding
persona.
Oh, speaking of that, if you're in Victoria, come on out to a comedy show and see. Well, basically, the open mics. You'll see me. I'm, still coming up, and it just recently started the whole stand-up comedy thing. But I'm trying to
catch him at the ground floor. Say you saw him before he got, the CBC movie deal.
Yep, exactly. And it's not just me. There's also wonderful other comedians around in town. So if you are in Victoria, go and see a live comedy show, and I think you'll find it quite enjoyable.
Say you caught them all before you saw them on CBC television for their latest TV series.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, you can always stay behind at the end of the show and say hi and chat with me and the other comics.
That's right. They're not aloof people. You can actually meet them afterwards.
You can.
Mostly.
Yeah. And don't forget to come to Roll for Initiative on Saturday if you can. And did I forget any other things? I don't think I did.
That's pretty good. I'm well covered. Yeah.
We have a Patreon page. Type in The Simulationist to Patreon.
You want to pay the batteries that charge up these microphones?
Buy us some batteries or a coffee or whatever you want. Okay, I think that's all the things we gotta get on.
I think we covered a wrap up on that too. So we're doing about good. So you'll hear from us again in 7 days.
Yeah, I've been Josh Treylaffin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Bye, Patreon.